This quote from Book of Awakening, January 16th, is by Naomi Nye. I say yes when I mean no, and the wrinkle grows. There have been many times that I said yes when I meant no, afraid of displeasing others, and even more afraid of being viewed as selfish. I think the first time I decided to get married, I said yes when I meant no. Young and inexperienced in being myself, I agreed to be a fish out of water for as long as I could, so as not to hurt or disappoint or displease. Not surprisingly, it all ended badly. And how many times, once trained in self-sacrifice, do we have the opposite conversation with ourselves, our passion for life saying yes, 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 and our practical guardedness saying, don't be foolish, be realistic, don't leave yourself unprotected. But long enough on the journey, and we come to realize an even deeper aspect of all this, that those who truly love us will never knowingly ask us to be other than we are. The unwavering truth is that when we agree to any demand, request, or condition that is contrary to our soul's nature, the cost is that precious life force is drained off our core. Despite the seeming rewards of compliance, our souls grow weary by engaging in activities that are inherently against our nature. When we leave the crowded streets and watch any piece of nature doing what it does, tree, moose, snake, lightning, it becomes clear that the very energy of life is the spirit released by things being what they are. And those of us committed to love must accept that care is the inner river flooding its banks. Yet, if the soul's river can't be fed by its source, there will be no care. January 16th, Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. If you bought the book, I know some of you did, maybe you wanted to read along. I've read this a few times in my life. I've had a few passages through January 16th over the years. Probably I remember this one so well because it's my dad's birthday, January 16th. And this year, on January 16th, I was really upset by being sick and not being able to get to the cemetery, and the weather was awful. But knowing that I probably would have been the only one that went anyway, and it just was so heavy on my heart, the crying, and John trying to understand that you're sick, we'll go when you feel better. And there's something about really being, we talk a lot about being authentic, but really being real with another person, maybe dropping the mask. I think we all wear a mask at some point in our lives where it's a form of protection. It's maybe just not knowing how to receive the love that you're given. And, hopefully, I know this is something that I'm learning, that like my husband said to me today, like, you give so much, please try and receive some of it with some peace and some grace, and stop being so hard on yourself. So I love that Mark puts at the end of any passage, at the end of every passage, he writes these little notes for you to really let this reading kind of incubate in a way. And he poses a series of questions like, after you were done reading this, can you remember the last time that you said yes when you meant no? And I always get this backwards because I'm dyslexic, but sometimes I say, oh, how many times have I said no when I meant yes? But that's a whole other story, the times that you say say no when you mean yes. That's a whole other psychology right there. But how many times have I said yes when I meant no? This was a lesson that was so hard for me to learn in my life. I thought that I'm always playing the role of teacher. I've, so much so that I've had dreams about I'm on a college campus and I'm some sort of professor, and I'm always having these dreams about teaching. And I thought in my life, I'm not going to succumb to the ways of other people. If other people are hard, if other people are not able to open themselves, and if other people are not compassionate, that I could be a example of taking a risk, of having the courage to be kind, and to show, to be an example. And who do we try all this stuff out on? Is like primarily our families, right? We have some difficult people in our family, and it's always a challenge to present present yourself authentically, and not let the person that's in an irrational state, is how I like to think of it, the person that's like bottled up or angry all the time or mean to you, to show up and like bring a sense of peace and grace. But that, to me, in my experience, has only agitated people more, as if my journey on this earth doesn't come with its own charms and challenges. It's just that I'm a little bit more internal with when I am rubbing up against something that is giving me anxiety or an emotional upset, which I've had this past week. I've learned from my doctor that a medication that is helping me is no longer going to be available to me. The drug companies won't pay for it anymore, and it's been very emotionally upsetting. But I don't talk about it. I talk about it with my husband, and so I'm always trying to be that calming force. I don't think that I ever go out in like a bad mood. I'll just stay home. I like this evening, John wants to go out, and I'm like, I'm just not into it. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I know that you haven't seen this person in a while, and I know you want to go, and you should go. You should, make the ride, and you should go see them, and just explain that, your wife is not feeling well, and that's why I'm not there. Rather than me go and just feel like I'm miserable. I just won't go out like that. But I always played the part of being an example. And I have some difficult people in my family. And, I always want to be the bigger person, be the one that, if I see that you're struggling with something, how can I help? And so this act of, I don't know that I was aware at the time that I was putting so much of myself out there when I should have been pulling back, because it's one thing that this isn't happening. Sometimes you just know that people can't receive what you're giving them, but they are still a good person. And then there are just people that are just like, they hate you for what you are. They hate you for being good. They hate you for being kind. They hate you for being compassionate. They use you. I mean, there's that saying in the Bible, don't throw your pearls at pigs. It's such a harsh, not interpretation. It's just a harsh statement. I'm not sure, where to find it in the Bible, but it's very easily found if you look that up. Don't throw your pearls at pigs. And it always made me shudder when I would hear this in church, you know, until it was explained finally, by a pastor that said, your pearls that you wear are your graces, your kindness, your loyalty, your truthfulness, your empathy, your compassion. And it's good to be good and give, but don't give it to the wrong people. And that happens when you say yes and you really mean no. And so can I remember the last time that I've had this? The last time I said yes when I meant no, finally, was the last time I said yes when I actually meant no. It finally was the straw that broke the camel's back, because when I finally, reassessed the situation that I had just said yes to, I was actually pressured into it. I have a friend that, it's always expected that, if you're a good friend, if you're an unselfish person, if you have a big heart, you'll do this for me because I would do it for you. And, I was just so tired of having to prove myself all the time of, I know you would do it for me. Yes, so I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. I'll say yeah. Don't worry about it. But this one situation caught me totally off guard, and I just really could not fulfill the request. I know that she thought it was no problem. I couldn't do it. I was in the middle of preparing myself for 3 job interviews that I was going out for that morning. One that I was very excited about, which was teaching children art, that were really hard to they were kind of disruptive in the classroom. And so I was going to be taking them with me and teaching them, art to help them focus. And I was so excited because I was doing something similar at the community center with young girls. I was teaching yoga. And the second thing was, I do a lot of mixed media art. I know doesn't show up a lot on this channel. It seems to be all about time and painting, but I do a lot of mixed media art. And there was an art store that opened up in my neighborhood. So exciting. It was like, oh my God, Philadelphia is starting to get a heartbeat, and we're starting to get like yoga studios and art studios. It was all very exciting. And I went in with my artwork of handmade cards that I made. They were all a Marie Antoinette theme. And the owner was so excited because it was like Marie Antoinette, like modern Marie Antoinette. The artwork was Marie Antoinette, but she was kind of like walking around with a cell phone, or she had an iPod on, And I had all different themes. She was so excited that she wanted to buy them and she wanted to sell them in her store. And so I am totally blindsided that morning as I'm trying to prepare for these 2 really important interviews that were important to me, that I wanted to get. And I was separated at the time, and my ex-husband still had a key to our home. We had been separated for a year. And I really, even though I was separated for a year and really starting to adjust to being single, my son didn't live in Philadelphia anymore. I think he was living in maybe Albany at the time, or he may have still been in New York. I hear my front door open, and my ex-husband is walking through the door. Like, no phone call, just totally blind, with a bunch of guys coming in the door like 9:30 in the morning, because he's going to collect the last of the things that he had. And that, for me, in my head, was, yes, I was getting used to being single again. It was a year. But as long as his things were still here, there was still stuff to work out, and we still might reconcile because we did this in the past. But no, now here he was with absolutely no warning coming through the front door. So I'm already off kilter. I'm already off my game. And then I get a phone call that, can you do this favor for me? And it's not even for her. It's for someone that I don't even know. And it entailed me, I'm also a makeup artist, it entailed me making a trip to where she lives to do the makeup for someone that I don't know, which is not an easy feat. Like I could take middle of the road makeup, but we're talking about a young girl here, and they're very specific, these young girls, and it's a prom, and they want to look a certain way, and like I'm like I'm hesitating because I know I can't do this today. I can't be up where you live, and I don't know this child. Like, why is not this child coming to me? And she wants me to do her makeup. So I'm really hesitant, but I'm getting pressured to say yes. She hears my husband in the back, my ex-husband in the background. Maybe he can drop you off. Maybe he can take you. And he's just, not that it was any of his business at this point. He's like, when I hung up the phone, he's like, what are you doing? Like, you just told me that you have these interviews to go. Well, why are you putting yourself under this pressure to go? I'm like, you know what? Because she would do it for me. So, are you done? Like, please leave, because I have to get my head back in the game here for these interviews. But as I'm trying to get ready, I'm like now under all this tension and anxiety that, I really can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I just can't. I call to say, this just isn't going to work out. I just don't have the time today to do this. I'm too pressured. I have a lot going on. I don't really talk about my personal life. I didn't want to talk about the fact that my ex-husband was, blindsided me with this visit and came in and took things out of our home, and like he still has a key. I didn't even ask him for the key back. Well, hey, you got all your stuff. Give me the key back. Because now we are moving in another direction. And she's furious with me. I said, listen, I know that you're upset. I know that you don't like to disappoint people. I'll call the kid and tell her I can't do it unless she wants to come here. She can't come there. Like, it's okay for me to be inconvenienced for someone I don't even know. But this kid that I don't know, that I'm doing a favor for because she saw her daughter's makeup and loved it. I did it for her prom on a day that I had to tell a friend that I couldn't do a job that she called me up for Vera Wang. So I could have been in New York doing a job for Vera Wang, but because I've always done my girlfriend's daughter's makeup from when she was a little girl, that was more important to me. So I made that choice, okay, but it still was a big deal for me to give that kind of a job up. And so now I'm under this pressure to do this favor for this child that I don't know, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this is not my girlfriend. Maybe something happened. Are the girls okay? Are your mom okay? Is your brother okay? Don't act like you care about me. You only worry about yourself. It turned so ugly. And I said, listen, I wasn't going to discuss this with you. But my ex-husband showed up. And, I'm way behind now on where I need to be on preparing for my interviews. So like this is my time. This is my minute. This is what I scheduled for myself. And it's not selfish. This is what I want for me so that I can move on with my life. And I'm being interrupted by him, and I'm being interrupted by you, and I'm being made to feel guilty. I'm being made to feel like I'm selfish and not a good person, and I only worry about myself. And I said, listen, I don't want to tell you this, but, my ex-husband walked in, and like I'm totally blind. And there was like absolutely no compassion, no empathy for what I was going through. And the last thing I heard was, don't bring your ex-husband into this. You don't care about him. And that was it. That was the last time I said yes when I meant no. Because it turned into a war where she was screaming and I was screaming and we couldn't even hear one another. And I just thought, like, you're doing this to me? Me who's always there for you, there for your girls? Me who's so generous with her time? No, I can't have this anymore. So that was the last time that I said yes when I meant no. And even though I did say, no, I can't do this. I know I just told you I could, but I can't. It still turned ugly. And I had to really sit with myself and be like, why did you say yes to begin with? And I think that that's something that we could all investigate when we really mean no. What is really prompting us to be pressured into saying yes? What is it that we want to be viewed as? And I really do think it is all the things that we're not getting. We're not validated with the people that are around us, like Mark says here. Those who truly love us will never knowingly ask us to be other than we are. And I was surrounded by a lot of people that were always asking me for favors and to do things, and like, oh, Lisa, she's so kind, she's so good, she's so nice, she'll do it, she's not going to say no, because they know that you don't want to be perceived as being selfish, self-centered, cruel, maybe even. Oh, do you believe that I asked her for a favor and she said no? Do you believe that, I went to go work for her and, she can't understand that I'm having problems with my boyfriend, husband, mother, child, whatever. And like, I was a little late and like, she's pissed off because I didn't get here on time. It's almost like, you don't have the right to run your life the way that you want to run it. And you have all these people around you, but why? Why do I have these people around me? I might come to the realization that these people are just using me. Family, mostly. But why am I putting up with it? Because the label is there? Because this is my family member that, I should love them. I should want to help them. We're family. It's so interesting. I'm getting this flashback of a show that I'm watching right now that's called Beef. And the brother is always so good and tries so hard. And the other brother is just always walking around like everything's just going to happen for me. And like, no one really sees how good he is or how hard he tries. It's so upsetting in a way to watch the show and then now talk about this, But I think that was the first time that I actually, even though this was a long-term friendship, we have been friends since I was 17 years old. And now I'm in my 40s and we're having this, like this is really, 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 really what you've thought about me throughout the years. And also, this thing that always got thrown in my face, like, I would do it for you. I would do it for you. It made me sit down and think, like, what was the last thing that you actually did for me? Like, when I sat down and really thought about it, I'm like, what's the last thing that you actually did for me? Like, it's always me going out of my way. It's always me traveling to your home to stay with you because maybe you're anxious, the girls aren't home and you don't want to be home. Yeah, I understand that. I was single for a long time with a young child, and it's very, unnerving at times to think if anything goes wrong in the middle of the night, who can I turn to? Who's going to be there for me? So I think that if you can sit down with the last time you said yes when you meant no, and then really think about, well, why did I say yes? For me, it was just wanting to feel validated that I'm a good person, even though I knew that their thank yous and their sincerity for doing whatever favor was not really coming from the heart, more like, oh, I can't thank you enough, bye, I'm off, oh, thanks for taking my shift for me, bye, I'm going out to have fun. People, and this is something else that comes up with something else that I'm teaching on this channel with the artist way. And I believe it's chapter 3 that, Julia Cameron calls them crazy makers. These are the people that are always trying to stop you from doing what you have planned for your life. So they're the ones that when you got to get off the phone, like you answer the phone just to see if everything's okay, and then they're keeping you on the phone, and they're just going, okay, well, I got to go. Oh, no, one more minute, because it's your minute. You got to go. But they don't want, no, well, if, she hangs up on me, not hangs up on me, but if she cuts our conversation short, she really doesn't care about it. Like, it's always these people that need to be reassured that they're important in your life, because they don't have a life. So that's a very interesting chapter too in The Artist's Way. And it's always a chapter that stayed in the back of my mind. Like, every time I'm saying yes when I mean no, I'm giving you the most precious thing that I have in my life, out of my precious life, my time. So why didn't I say no? And for me, again, it was always that feeling of like, well, I belong to this community called a family, and I belong to this community called friends, or this community called work, or this community called, teaching yoga, but and feeling like I belong somewhere. And that's another lesson that I didn't learn until I met my husband, and he really began to teach me things that I already knew, but I didn't know how to put into words, such as individualism, such as selfishness being a virtue and not a vice. And that's also something that I learned in studying a course in miracles. Selfishness is generous out of self-interest. So even the act of forgiveness is selfish, because it is in your self-interest. Because if you don't let it go, you're just drinking poison every day. Yeah. So there's all these examples. There's all these, like, so much that I've grasped at in my life, learning about this, learning about that, learning about this, learning about that, and it all comes together in different messages. It's your time, it's your life. I said no to a marriage, and the beginning of this reading where, Mark said, I think the first time I decided to get married, I said yes when I meant no. I was so worried about my son, because I was a single mother. I was so worried about my parents, well, when are you going to get married? You have a son now. When are you going to settle down? When are you going to meet a nice guy? I said yes, but my heart wasn't into it. But I thought, my son needs stability. My parents need to stop worrying about me. Instead of just saying, I know what I'm doing. And I think that that's another reason why we say yes when we mean no. You have to realize that you only have yourself to validate yourself. And it comes from an act of confidence also. Being principled, like, I'm not going to say yes to this to make you feel better. I'm not going to say yes to this, so you could stop worrying about me. Stop worrying about me. I'm okay. I know what I'm doing. And so, like, again, this chapter, this day, this little reflection that Mark has about saying yes when you mean no, is really about getting your life back, about letting go of the guilt, about, yes, someone calls you selfish, thank you. Thank you. I am selfish. You know why? Because this is my time. I'm sick and tired of giving it away because someone's asking me for something that I don't want to do. And it's such a center point in my life. You know, it's the compass of my life right now. And it will be till I die. Is there something else I would rather be doing other than this? And when the answer is yes, I say no to that other thing. Because I don't know how many minutes I have on this earth. I don't know when I have hourglasses all over the place. I don't know when the hourglass is going to turn empty. I don't know. And I don't want to close my eyes and think, I don't know what I'm going to think when that last breath comes. But I want to think that I lived an authentic life, that I did exactly what I wanted to do, no matter who liked it and who didn't. And so the next thing that Mark would have us reflect upon is breathe deeply and identify the cost of not saying what you meant. Well, the cost. I was married for 30 years. It was an unhappy marriage. It was not filled with a lot of joy, not a lot of companionship, not a lot of feeling connected to another person on so many levels. We kind of just went our own way and did our own thing, but we shared a business, and he knew that he could rely on me, that he could trust me, that I was loyal, and that I would show up, and that I would do whatever. And then even when the business got too big and we needed to hire other people to come in, and then he started to rely on them, and I kind of got pushed out. You know, I was never the type to just sit at home and be a housewife or you know, be a you know, well, yeah, that's my wife, you know, she doesn't come into work, she's out doing her hair, her nails, or whatever, that, or vacationing with her girlfriends. That was never my way. I'm not comfortable with that. I need to be productive and be involved in my business also. But when I finally, you know, after so many separations from each other, you know, we're two good people that really on paper should have had an outstanding marriage. But when one of you is always giving and one of you is always taking, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I decided that I don't, you know, it was during the time that my father was dying. And my father said to me, Elisa, why are you so sad all the time? And I said, Dad, because I am. You know, if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. I don't deny the truth. If I'm sad, it's because I'm sad. And my dad was, I don't think that my dad knew that he was dying. But my dad, you know, became very childlike towards the end with the dementia. They get to let go of all the hurt and anxiety that they carry with them because they don't remember it anymore. They only remember the good things. You know, he fought with his sister practically his whole life. They didn't have a relationship. But towards the end, he dug out these pictures of her, he put them all over the house. He talked about his sister and how much he loved her. And so my dad became very childlike and very innocent and very truthful. And he said, Lisa, don't waste your life being sad. Don't waste another minute being sad. Realize why you're sad and get over it. Change it. Put it behind you. Accept it. And then leave it alone. And that stayed with me. And when my dad died, I'm not kidding you, the funeral, my ex-husband was absolutely not 1 minute was he a source of comfort to me. He never came near me. He never put his arms around me. He never said to me, I understand what you're going through. You just lost your father. I know how deeply you're hurt. But no one in my family really understood my father. Really, honestly, I don't really think that I ever really understood him until he died, and that he was really just surrounded by a bunch of fools. My father was very educated. He was a well-educated man. He read voraciously. He had a wicked sense of humor. People loved him. I had the privilege of calling everyone when he died, and everyone had a story to tell me about how funny my dad was, and how he would people would say to him, your father, like, he missed his calling. You should have been a comedian. You should have been in Hollywood, and I got that privilege, and I don't really think that I really ever understood my father until he died. And I think it was because he was just around a bunch of fools, I mean, really, I really don't think anybody ever really saw him for what he was. And he was, and I am now too. I stay away from people, even family members, because I'm not appreciated for the person that I am. And because you're my family doesn't mean that I need to be around you. And so I went home that evening. I didn't go home. When we went to the funeral brunch, I went to go, of course, sit with my family. And there wasn't a seat there for me. I was the last one to leave the cemetery. It is the worst part of any time I have to be at a wake. In fact, the last wake that I went to was a few months ago, and I said to my husband, I'm not getting out of the car. I'm not standing by that gravesite. It is so upsetting to me to have to leave, and you leave a loved one behind. And I didn't know this woman, and still it was upsetting to me. And I was the last one to leave my father. And when I got to where we were having the funeral brunch, nothing was really organized, because, this is the way things are done in my family. I'm not there to say, why are the kids sitting over there where they should be over here with us? And I understand you want your girlfriend, my mother wanted her girlfriend to be sitting next to her. Of course, they grew up together. She's family to my mother. But her girlfriend looked at me like, there's nowhere to sit down. Do you want me to get up? No, I don't want you to get up. You just had a hip replacement. Stay. But I started to look around the room, and I see my ex-husband sitting with his family. The kids are sitting over here. And in the corner are my friends that have been with me all day long. All day. They were with me from 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm blessed. It's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I see a chair up against the wall at their table that would sit me between my husband's table, ex-husband's table, and my friends. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go and sit there so I could sit in between them. And when my ex-husband's family was done eating, well, they got to leave. They got to travel back to New York. And so now he's ready to leave. And I looked at him. He got up. He said, are you ready? I went, am I ready? I'm not even done eating yet. I want a cup of coffee. I want dessert. I want to talk to people, thank them for coming. Like, where do you think you are? I was ordering food for my father. I was like, when they took my order, it was like, I better get chicken wings for my father because that's all he loved to eat. He would love to eat chicken wings or ribs. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I thinking? You're in a state of shock. And this one is asking me if I'm ready to leave. I was like, no, I'm not ready to leave. He goes, well, we have to get to Josh's girlfriend's birthday party. My son. I went, what? What are you talking about? Well, it's Joanna's birthday today. I'm like, oh, is that why she left the funeral? Is that why she showed up in jeans? Because it's her birthday today and her mother's having a big party for her? Well, I'll take her out later on in the week. But I'm not going to a birthday party. And my friends are witnessing this conversation. Like, what is wrong with your ex-husband? And what did I do? I said yes when I meant no, just to get him out of my face. He said, we have to go because we have to get ready. And my friends were like, I have 9 friends at the table. They all offered to take me home. I said, you can leave. I have friends that'll drop me off at Joanna's. So I went from a funeral brunch to my son's girlfriend's birthday party and sat there for an hour and a half when I finally said to Joanna, where's Josh and my husband, ex-husband? She's like, oh, they went home. They were tired. They want to take a nap. They'll be here a little bit later. I'm like, okay. Happy birthday. I love this girl. I mean, I loved her. I'm so sorry things worked out the way that they did, but I'm going to take you out to dinner this week, me, you, and your sister. But I really need to go home. And as I'm leaving, here they come. They're coming down the street. Where are you going? Going home. Get in the car. He's now arguing with me about the fact that I'm leaving. And I said, you got your son? Go with your son. I have dirt on my pants from the cemetery. I want to go home. My son drops me off. I'm sitting in the back and I hear the front door close. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you getting out of the car? I'm not going there without you. What a disgrace that this woman did all this cooking and we're not going to be there. Well, that was it. Disgrace. I buried my father. You didn't come near me one time. You didn't put your arm around me. You didn't comfort me at all. You're calling me a disgrace? And as I'm walking up the steps to put the key in the door to go inside, I hear him say, I'm going to the corner to go get dinner. I get in. I literally got undressed in my entryway. I didn't even want to bring my clothes into the house. I walked up the steps naked and got in the shower, and I stayed under the shower until the water went cold, crying. Got out of the shower, my girlfriend called me and said, again, she couldn't come. She had jaw surgery. She said, where's Mike? And I said, didn't say a word. She went, you've got to be kidding me. I'm getting in the car and I'm picking you up. And that was the night that I left. I left. I was done. Lisa, stopped being sad. Accept it and move on. And that night, I left my ex-husband and I never looked back. And it caused a war in my family because people don't like change. They don't like anything upsetting their little community. You can't leave the tribe. Oh no, you're here. And they don't like you living your life. That's what I learned in these past 4 or 5 years. That's what I learned. They don't like you living your life. But let me tell you something. When I let go of all these hanger-ons in my life that were making me miserable and making me feel like a horrible person and making me feel like I wasn't good enough unless I was doing something for them, everything in my life improved. Everything in my life improved. My health improved. I was sick all the time. That's another cost that you pay when you say yes and you mean no. It's like, what was the quote? I say yes when I mean no and the wrinkle grows. Oh, it affects you in so many different ways. When you are not living your life, when you are not using your minutes to be productive in the areas of your life that you are trying to grow and flourish. So that's my story. And Mark wraps this all up. You know, the thinking about the last time you said yes when you meant no. Trying to understand why you said yes when you meant no. The cost it had in your life. Saying yes when you meant no. There are family members I still don't talk to. They act like, oh, she doesn't talk to us. Not because they were upset that I was changing my life. Now it's my fault. And he wraps this all up with, invite your spirit to speak directly the next time you are asked to be other than who you are. So the next time you're asked to do something that you really don't want to do, to really, if you can't do it in your physical form, to just take an inhale and ask your spirit to come forth and speak for you, to be the voice, to be my voice. And you don't need to explain. No is an answer. You don't need to explain. If they want an explanation from you, I don't have one that I wanted to share with you. It's my life. It's my minute. And I choose to spend it this way. Again, you don't need to explain. You might want to just sit at home and watch Netflix and eat ice cream. You do that for your soul. You feed your soul that way. So I hope that this reading for January 16th, I say yes when I mean no, prohibits another wrinkle from growing here. Because I love you. And that's why I do this. That's why I do this. This part of my channel is something that I'll never give up on. I know that, some things that I throw at you guys don't stick. But they bring me joy. And I'm sorry, if you think, well, I signed up for this girl because she was diamond painting and now she's talking about all this other stuff. Oh, I don't want to be bothered with her. Because I do. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't see if it's not even looking for something to stick. It's looking for other souls that feel the way that I do, that say, you know what? You brought some clarity to my life. And, I'm not alone. There are people like me that feel like this. And believe me, we are rare. Trust me when I tell you. Those of us who give of our heart, are loving, kind, compassionate, helpful, graceful, peaceful, calm, we are a rarity. And it upsets people. They think that, you have some, people think I was born with a horseshoe up my ass. No, I wasn't. I just don't complain. I look, when my heart is heavy, I look for things that are going to lift me up. And then I teach it because I want people to know that you're not alone. And I hope you enjoyed that reading as much as I did, because I really did. And another thing that I'm planning on doing because I had, before I got sick, I had these big plans for buy me a coffee. And I made all these little categories, and I'm just going to keep it down to one. And what I would really like to do, because I enjoyed this so much, is, let you guys I'll have my writings there and pieces of my journal and pictures and stuff. Usually when I'm editing a video, I try to like this last video that I did, I was having such a good time talking about, my girlfriend saying to me, oh my God, could you imagine if there was social media when we grew up? I was like, no, because the stories are so vivid in our minds already. They're burnt into our brains. And, there were pictures. I was like, oh, I wish I could find this picture and that picture and that I could put into the video. And so my subscribers could get even a bigger kick out of this part of my whipping chat. But I think those things I'll keep for, if you're interested. And just get my work done, get my editing done sooner. So, yes, I'm starting to feel better, and I really want to get to where I was and all my creative ideas that this book is falling apart, that I charted here. And this morning I was writing, and I was like, oh gosh, there's nothing more that I love than a journal that's full of words. And this is a 3-subject composition book, and I'm getting ready to finish the second section, and I have a whole third section, And I'm like, there's just something like when you start to write and you're 2/4 of the way, you're 2/3 of the way in, and the pages just have a different sound to them. And oh, another pen of mine is ready to bite the dust. I love it. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. I am coming up with, oh my God, I'm so excited. I was going to save this till the summer, but I need to pick me up. An unboxing of, I believe his name is Rico, this gorgeous flamingo that I got from Dreamer Designs. Oh my God, I'm in love with this flamingo. So that's what's coming up next during the week. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy your fun day. Do all the things you want to do. Be selfish.